Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Ryan Tremblay, and of course Robert Prevost. This means once again it is time for the Midnight Society science team to awaken LordeStarfox from his slumber as we again link up and try to figure out the madness known as the Dogman phenomenon. Ooh, absolutely delicious. A little bit more messier than preferred, yet no worries. I will have to clean up my casket a little bit later. Well, without further ado, it is time for the Wendigo guy, Mr. Prevost, and of course, LordeStarfox to take a walk into the madness.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf. And everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night. Yes, welcome back to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. Yes, the three amigos, or potentially the three stooges, have reunited once again. As always, we do have a bi-weekly show here. You should know who I'm referring to. Of course, the Wendigo guy and Robert Prevost. They snuck by my werewolf guards and have already set up the late night fire for us as we once again burn the timber into the early hours of the morning. Ryan, how you doing tonight, man?
Oh, a wise guy, eh? Well, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing excellent. I've been staying busy doing the whole podcast circuit, so little time to myself, but I am loving every moment of it.
Excellent, my guy. Yeah, you did just tell me you pulled a Star Fox and legit just put yourself to the wall.
I really did. I have your show tonight, then I have Coven of Curiosities tomorrow. Then I got another show on Sunday, another one on Monday, and then another one on Tuesday. So I'm just like, man, what did I do?
Gotta do it, man. Remember to invest that back into your own podcast too, though, my guy.
Absolutely.
Mr. Prevost, how are you doing tonight, brother?
Hey, I'm doing fine. I'm glad to be here. Been busy, been a busy week. All kinds of goofy stuff going on. Working on podcast, life in general. Working on the graphics for the channel, changing a few things up. Busy like you are all the time.
Yeah. Rob, you had some jerk over there on your podcast talking about Wachuge and whatnot.
I know. What a jerk. Yeah. Me and that jerk are going to have a did our video drop today?
Yes, it did. Yep. I already shared it out, and I made sure it went to Twitter and it went to Instagram and Facebook. So I was being that good buddy,
Oh, you're so sweet. But anyway. Yeah. So we had that one that dropped today. That was a fun one to make. Yeah, we had a ball with that. Also dropped a cryptid field guide on that one, which was fun to do. So yeah, we're humming along, putting it out every 2 weeks, and in between all that, I keep putting out the stuff for the field guide, and then we're also doing trying to get back out in the field and do investigations. Weather's been weird, life has been weird, so it'll be what it'll be.
Stay weird, man. Stay weird.
That's me. I don't have any other choice.
Hey, was that a subliminal poke at me over here? I see how it is.
Oh yeah,
Maybe-
totally, dude.
Maybe you're just paranoid.
Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that everybody's
Yeah.
not out to get you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you
Like,
know you're weird, just be weird. You know?
when I was 11, when I came home with my hair colored all crazy and I had my lip pierced, I remember my mom like disowned me. I feel like for a year until my next birthday.
Well, that's rough.
Yeah, then she accepted it after, so I totally know how this is. Well, Mr. Prevo and the Wendigo guy do have some really excellent stuff for us tonight.
Take it away, Robert.
All right. So for me, well, I've been playing around with a bunch of stuff this week, and one of the ones that I came across in folklore, actually, I came across two really interesting things in folklore. And one is from Japan, and it's called the Okuri Inu. So Okuri Inu is an escorting dog. So where this came from is in the mountains of Japan during the feudal period. A lot of time people had to travel from village or from farm to village or to another farm. And oftentimes they had to do this at night or in the afternoons. And wolves were a big deal at one time in parts of Japan. But this was either a dog or a wolf that was different than the wolves that they had. Generally, it was kind of thought to be more of a spirit or something a little bit unknown. And they even mentioned at times that it was very different than wolves, but they didn't get into the specifics. So we're not saying it's an upright werewolf type thing or anything like that. They do talk about it as a wolf, generally. And it does have these creepy glowing eyes. But what would happen is somebody would be walking along, minding their own business, trying to get home. And then they would notice that something is following them. And whenever they could figure out what it was following them, it was the Okuri Inu. And the Okuri Inu, this big, shadowy dog or wolf, at times would try to make them fall. It would jump over them or run past them. And if they were to fall, it would attack them. But if they were able to hold their course and be positive, it would not, outright attack them. And it comes to find out that if you take a moment and you stop and you thank the Okuri Inu for walking along with you, it either will then protect you or it will simply go away. Now, there's also a weird relationship between this story and Native American stories. And if you, like I said, if you take the time to leave offerings and you tell it thank you, it will then stay with you and protect you. There are even stories of the Okuri Inu protecting a pregnant woman who was on the way to her mother's house and ended up giving birth on the way. She was hiding in the bushes and she was afraid that the wolves were going to come after her, and they were getting ready to, but then the Okuri Inu showed up and protected her and led her home. So this is some pretty stuff from Japan, which I found that I thought people might find very interesting. Now, there are a couple of other ones. Now, Inu, of course, that word means dog. If you look through other areas in Japan, the word okami means wolf. There is another one called a yama inu, which is wild dog. And then there is a muke inu, which is called the welcoming dog. Now, muke inu is a little bit different and it's a little bit more spiritual. Generally, muke inu is the dog that leads you to heaven. So dogs are very, very in very high esteem in Japan.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Robert. Really fascinating when you look at all the different folklore and mythology from all these different cultures. Because like the Cherokee have the Wotagoi, which is a type of werewolf. But so obviously even the Japanese have a sacred belief like the indigenous tribes have.
Exactly, exactly. So there, if you've got cultures that are that far apart, it actually has to bring you to questioning, well, what is that connection? It's kind of like with giants. Everybody's got giants in their culture, dragons pop up, so if you've got a connection like this, it kind of starts to make you wonder, what is this connection that we're not getting right there?
Right. And speaking of giants, I'm actually going to be doing a show about the Dene, the Navajo giant, the Itzo and the
Hmm.
Ma Itzo. And it's interesting because the stories of canine dogman-like creatures bringing down these giants.
See, that's really interesting. That falls back to kind of what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago with the Snallygaster, and also, it kind of falls back to a lot of the more, Viking stories
Hmm.
about werewolves and wolves, and then you get into Fenris and stuff like that. So yeah, that's really interesting.
It is, and I think that a lot of people kind of lost the positive aspects of werewolf-like creatures because of, Hollywood. All the horror movies out there, werewolves are always the bad guys. And in
Yeah.
ancient culture, though, even in medieval times in Europe, werewolves were a positive thing. So if you had a bipedal canine thing like Dogman running around, it wasn't seen as a bad sign. They were seen as heroes. And even
Hmm.
some, the indigenous tribes, they view them as heroic creatures that are there to protect the people against, giants, against Bigfoot, Snallygaster, bad spirits, so there's really been a disconnection from nature, as I like to put it, that we misunderstand these canine-like creatures.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I've got one other individual from folklore. Now, this one actually, as oddly enough, as we're speaking about werewolves, this one actually comes from the old, really old Arabian folklore. And this gets back when you get into where they talked about the jinn.
Ooh,
Yeah, so this one is spelled Qutrub, and if I pronounce it wrong, I'm terribly sorry, but from what I understand, it's Kutrub. Okay.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So Kutrub is an Arabian werewolf that, here's the really interesting part, and again, this is a commonality that pops up everywhere. Here we go. Haunts graveyards.
Hmm.
All right, so this falls under the whole ghoul type thing,
Does
because when you get into the ghouls of, the old European stories, especially when you get into Germany, the Scandinavia areas and stuff like that,
hmm
this thing specifically, is its only purpose is to stay in graveyards, protect the graveyards.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, that's really interesting, and really kind of, that makes you wonder, is that why people don't want to be in graveyards more than, seeing ghosts and stuff, is because of the ghouls that hang out in there?
I mean, personally, I'm terrified I'm going to see zombies. I hate zombies. George Romero is my enemy for so.
Yeah, I always thought, if you wait just a little bit of, wait for everybody to wake up and get out of their boxes and everything, you would think that the graveyard would be about the safest place to be during an apocalypse like that, because everybody's gone.
Sure.
Everybody climbed up out of the ground, and then you went and just hung out in the graveyard because everybody got out of there once they got out of the ground. So,
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
yeah.
still, that fear of zombies is ever present, Robert. So I can't shake it.
I know, I know. Everybody has the fear of zombies. Of course, I've been waiting for the zombie apocalypse about half my life, and so
Well, I keep telling everybody, look, I will fight werewolves, I will fight Wendigo, I will fight skinwalkers, and even a Bigfoot. But the minute zombies show up, I don't know you anymore. You're not my friend. I will run away. I will find the highest possible outpost, stay up on the roof, and I'll be like, yeah, no, I don't know you. Don't climb up this ladder. Absolutely not. No.
well, you lock your door, and I'll just work my way to you because I think I've got the junk to make it all the way there.
That sounds fair. I will take you up on that offer.
Anyway, that's what I've got out of folklore this week. So we've got the Okuri Inu that comes from Japan, and the Kutrub, which is kind of a jinn, which is interesting. Um, and that's from the old Arabian Persian
hmm
folklore.
I'm going to
So
bring
what
it.
you guys got?
I'm going to bring it right back to the Waletgoi from the Cherokee, because they also say that it resides on sacred burial grounds. That if you cross that burial ground with any intention of ill will, be it grave robbing, stealing anything from the burial ground, then this thing will attack you. Okay, but if you go
Hmm.
there with good intention, like you're just there to pay respect to your ancestors. It'll leave you alone, and it'll even accompany you and guard over you while you're paying homage to your ancestors. So again,
Ooh.
a very interesting connection that we seem to be finding in all these different cultures that are worldwide.
Yes, absolutely. So there seems to be a lot of intent that is tied in with a lot of this stuff. So if your intent is not pure, but if it's better, if you're being respectful, let me say that much. If you're being respectful, it seems like there's an air of protection that is being allowed over you. However, if you're being a jerk, you should probably watch out.
Yeah, I mean, that makes me wonder about my own encounter. I mean, when I had that hyena thing that I ran into, I was scared. I didn't know what I was looking at. So I was scared and confused. Maybe that's why there was that gentle interaction. I wasn't out there to bring it down. I wasn't out there to harm it. So I got to wonder if maybe that came into play somehow.
I think that's true. I think that's absolutely true. I think maybe what's going on is a deeper story than what we really understand sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you hear about the Cheyenne werewolf too, that, it's super aggressive.
Right.
Maybe it's
right.
it's responding to the vibe and the energies that people give off, which canines can and will do. Even your household dog, if somebody walks into your house with intentions to hurt you, nothing's going to know before your dog. Okay. Your dog is going to react with, no, I don't like this person. I'm not going to go over to him or her. I'm going to show aggression to get this person out of here. So maybe there's something to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, historically with us and then continuously through mythology and folklore, dogs are used for guardianship. I mean, look at Cerberus and many of the others. I mean, when you get into Chinese and Japanese, you've got temple dogs that are in front of all of the temples protecting everything. So maybe we're missing an idea. I mean, a lot of people do talk about that they feel like Dogman is protecting Native American burial grounds, but maybe it's something deeper and older than just Native American burial grounds. Maybe it's something more along the lines of the Fae or the Jinn or, things like that. I don't know. We're still reaching. We're still trying to figure out what the right question is to ask.
As far as indigenous tribes go, though, when it pertains to dogs were seen as the gift of a creator. Okay. They were meant to be our companions. So that's why when you see them with their dogs, they take good care of them like it's their kids. That's why I am so close to my dog, because I believe he's a spiritual bond with me.
Oh, yeah.
So, dogs are very important in almost every tribal folklore. This is how the Cheyenne dog soldiers came about. I don't know if Kenny's familiar with the story of the Cheyenne dog soldiers. Okay, so it wasn't a chieftain that was, the god of war, so to speak. It was started by a boy. Okay, this group of warriors was actually started by a young boy who people were kind of scoffing and laughing at his visions and laughing at his ambitions to create a group of soldiers. Mm-hmm. So he went out to the edge of his village. He was walking along the edge, and these dogs approached him. Okay, and according to the story, these dogs turned into dogmen-like creatures, okay? And they showed him the meaning of loyalty. They showed him skills and crafts so that these warriors could be the perfect ultimate warriors. So the dog soldiers, when you hear people talk about Cheyenne dog soldiers, they themselves were not dogmen, okay? They get the name dog soldiers because the skills they learned were taught to the boy from dogs.
Yes, very important to know, because I have often heard, unfortunately, anytime you say dog or you say wolf or there's a canine involved in some kind of folklore and mythology, people automatically jump to, oh, well, Dogman or, right. Werewolf or something like that. No, even the term werewolf has been badly abused and really has almost no relationship to the idea of Dogman. It's simply what Hollywood has put forth as far as what a werewolf looks like, that people are going, that's what I saw, so it must be a werewolf.
Well, they also have to remember, though, that there's a lot of European and French influence, okay? So when settlers came over here and they went to Canada, they heard the different stories of, the dog soldiers, of the Wlatgoy, the Wayatsugi. So when they heard this stuff, they assumed, oh, it's a loup-garou. And, people started mistranslating the stories as time trickled down. And that's where everybody thought, oh, well, when they're talking about these things, they're talking about werewolves or dogmen. And in a lot of cases, no, they're not. They're talking about certain things, certain aspects of their culture that the French and the Europeans mistranslated and kind of molded into what they wanted it to be.
Right. Definitely want to go back to the dog soldiers because I think it's incredibly important. If anybody has watched Small Town Monsters videos, and I love Small Town Monsters stuff, but there's one thing that I've been trying to research into, and I keep butting my head up against just a wall, and that's where at the beginning of the one about the what they call the skinwalkers from Louisiana, whenever you get into the Rougarou, and they talk about a tribe called the Attakapaw. And so I was able to really get into a lot of stuff with the Attakapaw, but they talk about a story where the Attakapaw, who are cannibals, by the way, do this dark magic thing, kind of just all very Hollywoodish, and they become these dog men or these, shapeshifters, these skinwalkers or whatever.
Right.
I tried to do some real digging into the folklore of the Attakapaw. Now, the Attakapaw folklore is kind of thin as far as what's been published, which is weird because there's still some remaining, members of that tribe. But as far as the folklore, it's really hard to get into, and there is absolutely zero reference to any werewolves, skinwalkers, dark stuff like that, which a lot of their folklore comes around from that man came from the ocean and stuff like that.
Can I play the devil's advocate for a bit?
I wish you would, please.
Okay, so I think where that kind of stemmed from, Robert, is when people hear about skinwalkers, they think that every single tribe has the Yinaralushi, okay? No, that's not the case. Yinaralushi are exclusively Navajo, okay? It's Dene. Right. So any extensions of the Dene tribes will have their own Yinaralushi, but the Dene tribe does not extend to Louisiana where the Rougarou comes from, okay? The Rougarou does not stem from that particular tribe. I think people are convoluting it. They're taking the Yinaralushi, the skinwalker traditions, the stories of them, and they're just kind of going, oh, well, it's a blanket thing. Every tribe has it. If it's Native American, they must have skinwalkers, when really that's not the case. And just because they're Native American doesn't mean they have the same beliefs as the Navajo, the Cree, the Ojibwe, the Algonquin. The tribes are different in their beliefs, and you got to look at that. You have to speak to these people of these tribes and get to know what they believe before you say something's fact. Get it right from their mouths.
What's interesting is that the Rougarou comes from Lougarou, which is French. So Lougarou started around over in France, came over into Canada, Nova Scotia, and then when they had that massive, kicking everybody who was French out of Canada, and they all came down the coast and went into Louisiana, that's where Lougarou became Rougarou.
Yes.
So it's just a little bit of a change, and you're only looking at a change of one or two letters in there, and then the lore kind of changed a little bit. So it's kind of a game of telegraph where the story changed a little bit. But so that you're looking at something that's very European that made its way over here. So you really have to trace the story back. It's not Rougarou is not a Native American story. It is a French trapper's story.
So the whole thing, Lougarou and Rougarou, do you know where the whole Rougarou thing really came from, though?
Parts of it, but go ahead. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
It was a mispronunciation by the Blackfoot, okay? So when the French came over, they would, of course, have the French way of saying Lougarou, okay? The tribal members couldn't pronounce it the right way. When they tried to say it, they got Rougarou, okay? So that's where it started to meld in with the French culture and all the other cultures that were associating with the Blackfoot because they called it Rougarou. They couldn't say it the proper way. That is where the word Rougarou stems from. It was a mispronunciation the whole time.
Yeah. That makes sense. Absolutely.
That's why I say you absolutely 100% have to talk to the indigenous tribal members. If you want to speak about their mythologies, their entities that they have in their oral traditions, go to them, sit with them, and only if you get it from them can you call it a fact. If you get it from Google, another YouTube video, or whatever, and the person's not really talking to the indigenous people, you got to stop and go, well, is he getting the full story or what's up? So
Exactly. Now, I have a question about the dog soldiers, and this is a Hollywood-based question because I didn't really have a chance to get into the study of the dog soldiers this week. I was messing with 20 other things.
Okay.
Now, like a lot of other people, I am a fan of the show Longmire. Now, on Longmire, they do talk about the dog soldiers, and one of the things that they talk about is where they would take a stake, put it in the ground, and put a lead around one ankle, and that's where they would stand and fight, is within that circle. Is that true?
That is 100% correct. Yes.
Cool. All right. So Hollywood got something right. That's really cool.
These guys were so devoted to having honorable combat. Like, they did not believe in cheating. So when they did that to themselves, that was their way of showing, we're going to fight on fair ground. I'm going to limit myself as I'm fighting you so I can show you that I am the superior warrior. And you get a tip of your hat to that because, when the settlers came over and the cavalry and all these things were coming at you, so here they are going, well, I'm not going to show fear. I'm going to show such a devotion to protecting my people that I will even give myself a disadvantage in taking you down.
Well, and it's not only a devotion to the way they defend their people, but as much as to their beliefs about combat. That's kind of like a samurai will hold to what he believed with his swords whenever confronted with superior firepower. So,
right.
Yeah.
Plus, it's from the nature of the dog. When a dog is its fiercest is when it's trapped. That goes for really any animal. So when a dog is trapped, though, and it's on that leash, it's going to be coming at you. Because it wants to get loose, so it's going to be relentless and trying to get away and trying to get to you. So they kind of adopted the nature of the dog.
Exactly.
So, but no, they weren't werewolves. They didn't shapeshift. Okay, they were just strong, devoted men, very strong. So at no point did they become canines. At no point did they grow fur and fangs. They didn't howl at the moon.
Yeah. We have to remember, just because the word dog was used in there does not mean that they were shapeshifters.
Right. I mean, go back to like stories of the dog and the Wendigo. Okay, the dog is the one that defeated the Wendigo spirit. So dogs were incredibly important to the whole belief system of the various tribes. Okay, it's sometimes hard to understand, but with the indigenous cultures, when they say something, that's what they mean. So when they say dog, they mean dog. If they want to talk about werewolves, they'll find another term to use.
It's funny because, with dogs being our best friends and hanging around with us, and we know that dogs can sense and see and respond to things that we can't. I kind of wonder, way back whenever we started bringing wolf puppies home and, taming them and everything, was there possibility that maybe we knew that they could help protect us from these things that we didn't understand, like these, the Lucifalea and, the different giants and things like that? Maybe we knew that they were our guardians to help us against evil.
I mean, everything happens for a purpose. So if I had to make a theory, I would say that somebody was protected by a wolf or a dog way back in that day, and they realized we have a companionship with them. This thing protected me when it didn't need to. It was being my best friend.
Yeah.
I needed protection. Yeah. So I think that's maybe how it started there, is they realized, we can bond with them. We can grow to understand them. They grow to understand us, and we have this connection. And I think that's really, it had to start somewhere.
Absolutely. Kenny, we have left you in the dust. Where are you at, my friend?
I'm going to go watch hockey.
I bet that's what he's doing. He's watching hockey.
I'm here, man. I'm listening. Like I said at the beginning, I didn't know the most about this topic. It only makes sense to allow individuals that are much more educated speak about it. I also preach that, to be quite honest with you, a perfect podcast for me is legit doing my intro and outro, and that's it, So the more my hosts speak, that's great. If I wanted to sit here and listen to myself speak all the time, well, I wouldn't have a team, great hosts such as yourself, my guy. The more you speak, excellent. Yet I did want to make a cool couple little references real quick when you were talking at the beginning about some of the Japanese aspects. Super nerd here, so I used to watch Inuyasha all the time, which was
Ooh, I
a
love
great,
that.
anime based in feudal Japan where they had a ton of cool yoki references. Skinwalkers, kind of not called that, but shapeshifters. You had the dog demons. You had legit everything. It was so cool. Also, though, I did a couple weeks ago speak to another member of the science team, William White, and he was talking about the Kasuni, which was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, the Kitsune are very cool.
Oh yes, the cat of nine tails, or many more tails. Yeah, they have to live to be at least 100 to be able to get those.
Yeah,
To
those
get an
creepy
extra tail.
boxes, right? Yeah, and a
Yeah.
lot of
Yep.
times I guess it was women that you could tell because it would be coming up from underneath their garments. But yeah, we were talking about a really
See,
cool
another
encounter where,
interesting connection right there. I mean, the Japanese have the Kitsune, and then you have tribes that have the deer woman, so another fascinating connection right there.
wow, what the heck? Also,
Yep.
again, too, with the whole giant spider thing that I'm doing on my other podcast, quick thing too that you both will like is same thing with Japan. They don't have any large tarantular-based spiders there, yet in some of their depictions, they have a demon or these demon-like things that look identical to tarantulas, yet they would have never had a chance to speak to outside cultures at that point in time that would have had tarantulas. Bizarre.
Wait a minute, Robert, did you convince him to bring up spiders?
I know nothing. I know nothing about the spiders.
No, Camp Nightmare Fuel with Barb. I actually just finished our third episode about the Jabba. It's going to be a little under an hour, which is excellent because most of the Jabba stuff you see around is only 5 to 10 minutes, which is really cool. Yet, yeah, we gathered everything and sat down and just had a great Jabba thing. So no, that's just why I made that reference as well, because it falls into what we were speaking about here, though. Just again, why are all these cultures just referring to things that are similar, meaning giant tarantulas do exist? So why the heck were they referring to that? And also, why are Asian-based cultures referring to shapeshifters and jet black like entities and such that fall into the Native Americans we're speaking about? I don't know. It's just all super bizarre stuff. And on a quick humorous note, before I toss it back to y'all and we get some more information in before we let everyone roll, is if anyone came into my house, my squirrel would go gnarly, dude. She's pretty out of control to me sometimes to handle when she's not happy, man. Everyone ever seen Conan the Barbarian with his ferrets? Yeah, dude, my squirrel's like that. Just put a little vest up on her, man, and let's roll.
Beastmaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. With his two ferrets. Yeah, I just watched that movie the other night.
Oh my God, I haven't watched Beastmaster in years, at least decades.
It's such a good movie. Oh my goodness. It's such a great movie.
It's cool that Kenny brought up Inuyasha and, talking about the yokai and stuff like that. I spend a lot of time reading about Japanese folk. Japanese folklore is one of those things that just consumes me. So cool. Whenever you were talking about Jorogumo, which is the spider demon, that's really interesting. So it's kind of interesting whenever you get into talking with in Asia, especially in Japan, even more so when you talk about trickster spirits, it always appears as a female. So when you got Jorogumo and you got Katsumi, you're looking at it usually appears as a female. It's pretty interesting.
I'm still really mad that you guys brought up giant spiders, though. Thanks. I'll be having nightmares for days now.
Not the spiders.
So awesome.
Can't see any meme, GIF, movie, commercial, anything. I can't walk in the woods without, if I see a spider, I'm like trembling, and I just keep going.
Oh man, you would definitely. I free all the spiders in my house. I try to get them out and things. I mean, don't get me wrong. If we're talking about a huntsman or a giant tarantula or a spider the size of an average American woman, sure, that's a little bit different. I don't want to play with it, but like jumping spiders and stuff, yeah, totally cool. And also, again, when Tremblay was talking about how the warriors would fight in that mannerism when both of you were indulging in that, great stuff. Yeah, again, on a humorous / sarcastic note, I got more of the vampire kind of mentality we just all show up, like 40 of us, and it's pretty quick.
What if Blade's waiting for you, buddy? What happens then?
I just give him a true blood.
Oh, okay. All right.
With what? Carrot juice?
Right.
Blade was a half vampire, wasn't he?
Every time I talk to you, Kenny, what are you drinking? Carrot juice. So
I love it. I'm all out of V8 juice right now. It's so sad. So I'm actually drinking pure coconut water at the moment. Pretty good.
Hey, that's good stuff. Coconut water is delicious.
Yeah, it is until it works its way through your system and it helps you run to the bathroom very quickly.
So I'm just sitting here eating some teriyaki seaweed chips and drinking my coconut water and just listening to excellent knowledge.
Such a hippie, I swear to
God. I do walk around barefoot too, as much as I can, and I got the 5-finger toe shoes like Cody Lundeen. So
he's in love, man.
All right, guys, what else have we got on these weird critters?
Well, I mean, I still think we need to discuss the connection. I mean, it's fascinating how, you have Japanese lore, you have Greek mythology, you have the indigenous people, the Europeans. All these people talk about werewolves or something very, very similar, okay? Mm-hmm. And within folklore, there's a kernel of truth. So at some point in time, these cultures and societies were seeing these creatures, okay? They were actually seeing something right before their very eyes, which is why they started talking about it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that's ignored by, many researchers. They think folklore is just folklore. Well, no, because folklore also speaks about Bigfoot, And so when you mention Native American Bigfoot lore, then the researchers are like, yeah, that's proof, that's evidence they were real. Sure, it might be. But then when we hear like werewolf mythology from other cultures, they're like, nah, it's just folklore. We have to stop doing that, okay? Because if it's going to be evidence for one, then it's evidence for the other, okay? Yep. That's the way it's going to work.
I think you're absolutely right. And like I was talking about with that one from the Arabian folklore, the Katrub, I think we need to start looking at some of the commonalities. It kind of relates to ghouls, which also relates to something else that comes from Scandinavian and Slavic folklore. Mm-hmm. There's got to be a connection that we're missing in there that, may eventually help us get to the answers, or at very least asking the right questions. So we've got to kind of start to sieve through this stuff. I'm not talking about piecemealing or taking out the parts that we like and leaving out the parts that we don't like, but what are the commonalities that we're missing? Are we writing a story that we chose, or are we writing the story that history has chosen for us? Because if we're writing just the story that we want, it's bull crap.
Exactly.
And we don't need that. And we're not going to get the right answers. But if we start laying out the facts and mapping out the facts from folklore, from eyewitness accounts, from, and real true eyewitness accounts and stuff like that, which is kind of difficult to do.
I do have a theory. Mm-hmm. And ironically, it kind of swivels back to what Kenny was talking about. So maybe they protect those graveyards because you're giving of somebody, because you're protecting these graveyards. And maybe that's where that stems from.
Well, there's that. So what if they see us digging in the ground? Again, we're back to digging in the ground. Here that is popping up again. We're digging in the ground, and they're like, no, you don't do that. So, I mean, maybe it's the sanctity of the ground that they're protecting rather than us fouling the ground with what we left behind.
So you're kind of going through the whole spiritual connection to Mother Earth then?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I could see that. I could definitely see that. Mm-hmm. Smart thinking, Robert. Way to go.
Woohoo. So, there's something going on with disturbing the earth. Whenever we've seen that with, Skinwalker Ranch, talked about it, and several others have, that's a reoccurring thing. Anytime you disturb the earth, something happens.
Yeah, well, it's because Mother Earth is alive. Like she has a heartbeat. She breathes. So, when we're doing things like, making the ground toxic, we're affecting Mother Earth. So I'm sure things like this, spiritual entities, are more connected to Mother Earth than we'll ever be. And they know that.
Right. Which, I should be in a lot of trouble because I plant in my garden all the time. But, I say that, but I also have Shinto shrines and stuff like that in my
Right.
garden, and
So-
I leave a lot of offerings and stuff like that.
While you're digging, though, you're also giving, though, because when you plant vegetables or whatever, it's life-giving, So I think
Yes.
Mother Earth would understand that you're helping her by helping us. Like when you plant things, it creates us the ability to breathe. We have the whole thing to where air is created, and it's, I think Mother Earth would know that and be like, well, you're not hurting me, you're helping me.
Right. Yeah, I think, and that, talking about, yeah, this just popped in my head, not to like change lanes, but we hear about mines a lot being haunted,
Yes.
and then you get into the Tommy knockers and all of this other stuff. Well, that's us digging into the earth, and here we go again with all of this, disruption. So yeah, there's again these commonalities. We've got to start looking at this stuff. What's going on?
We keep doing this to ourselves, Robert. Every time we come on a show with Kenny, we have a new venue to look down.
We do.
Single time.
Yeah,
Every
we
single
do.
time.
I'm beginning to think that's why I actually come on Kenny's show, so I have something to talk about on mine. No, I love Kenny, and I love Ryan. I love hanging out with you guys.
It's a very symbiotic relationship. We help.
Yes.
So
Yes, we have a bunch of fun.
Can't complain there at all. No, great stuff, my guys. I actually, before we start to tie this up, if you have anything else here to touch base on in a second, I wanted to make another humorous note. How dare you talk about my children, aka ghouls, like that? I feel very upset. Well, my great friends, is there anything else you would like to touch base on tonight before we let you get rolling?
I think I chewed your ear off enough.
Yeah, as far as for me, just keep an eye on the channel. We're doing, like I said, the cryptid field guides are really going to be popping out here and there. And I'm trying to get into the folklore of the, we're going to do from around the world. We're going to do Japan, China, Africa, Native American, Australia. So, it's going to be a little, all over the place. So if you're waiting on something specific, let me know. You can hit me up on the channel and tell me what you want to see, or you can just wait like everybody else does for their favorite cryptid or paranormal creature or whatever to show up. But we're humming away, and we're trying to get all of them out there. So you got to consider how many thousands of different critters there are, and we're working on that.
Sounds exciting, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun.
Thanks for hanging out, guys. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Love it every time we show up together.
Absolutely. All right, boys. You behave yourselves until next time.
Ooh, you legends, I do adore every single one of you. And thank you for hanging out tonight. If you do enjoy our content, please like, comment, subscribe, share the facts to the algorithm. And yes, we will catch you very soon.